Okay, hi guys, welcome back. There's been a lot of talk recently on forums and Discord and the like about the reduction in price of HNT and the market in general, and the fact that helium's going to die. The price has just dropped and you really shouldn't invest and all this lot. So there's a lot of scaremongering going on. Well, I do a little bit of trading and investing myself. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll see all the multiple monitors I've got behind me. So in this video, I'm going to take a quick look at HNT and the other cryptos, the other market sentiment, just to have a quick look. I've made a bit of an assumption that you know or have an idea of what candlestick patterns are or trend lines in the market. If you don't, then really you shouldn't be bothering about buying or selling HNT, and if you're interested, just have a look online. Adam Ku's got some great videos on all of this. Okay, so let's have a look then. This is the HNT daily chart, and yeah, we can see that it's reduced from November from like $50–$60 all the way currently until just shy of $10, so obviously it's dropped a lot. But let's take a look at how that compares with other cryptos and the other markets. Okay, so here we've got the weekly charts of the S&P500 ETF, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and of course HNT. So if we look at the main retracements and peaks, we can see we've got a kind of a retracement here, and more recently we've got a number of retracements as the value goes down. But we can see that on the Bitcoin, we've got similar things going on. We can see the retracements there, and previously we've got some kind of going on there, which kind of matches in time to some of these. So we can see that Bitcoin follows the S&P 500, and if we have a look at HNT compared with Bitcoin, we can again see we've got these peaks and troughs, or these retracements in a downward trend, and there again they're aligning, and we can see that they're in a similar time frame to Bitcoin. We can see, you know, these times here, these peaks and the retracements, so they're of a similar time frame. For example, we can see here the S&P had a peak at, what's that? That's kind of end of 2021, and the Bitcoin end of 2021, again a peak itself. So what this shows is that Bitcoin tends to follow the S&P 500, that's the main market, and other cryptos follow Bitcoin, and therefore obviously HNT follows the market sentiment. So if the market sentiment is reducing and getting worse and worse, then HNT will as well. But of course that also means that if the S&P and the general market starts to improve again, you could accept that Bitcoin and HNT will increase as well. However, of course, that depends on what the market's going to be doing next. It's certainly reducing a great deal at the moment. It's got a big correction. So is it going to go through the floor? Is everything going to be lost? Well, if it follows the S&P, let's have a look at what the S&P has been performing over time and see if we can work out what's going to happen going forward. Now here we've got the S&P 500 ETF, the SPY, and here we've got a much longer monthly candle, and we're looking here from 2010 all the way to this month. And what should be obvious to everybody is the fact that the general trend is going up. And if you look at it at a larger scale, kind of from 1994, then again you can see these peaks, troughs, peaks, troughs, peaks, troughs, and it's increasing. So if you have a look at it a longer period of time, and this actually goes back to the beginning of the S&P kind of 100 years ago, you've just got this general trend and it's going upwards all the time. So if you were to keep your money in longer term, generally 5 years or more, the chances are you won't lose it all. So going back to the short term one then, and again we can see that the longer period ones, they follow these trend lines. Those of you that might be used to them, we've got the 9 EMA, we've got the 20, the 50, and I think that's the 150 EMA. And we can see that on occasion the S&P will drop and bounce off these EMAs there, and it'll bounce, that's COVID by the way, dropping off there, and it occasionally drops off the 9 EMA there. So we can see that the trend is upwards over kind of all the time, But in the shorter periods, you do get these kind of rejections and corrections as the value of the market drops to the general trend. In fact, what we've got here is got a case where it's increased and increased and increased, and it's so far extended from the general trend that at some point, it has to retrace back to that general trend. And that's what we're undergoing at the moment. Now, emphasising that this is the weekly candles for the S&P. We can see that massive big drop-off due to COVID. But since then, it's obviously been increasing all the time, up until more recently, as we know this is this correction. And again, these corrections, if we just look at them, a correction to that EMA, again to that EMA, that one there, that correction there. So it's bouncing off these levels here, it's following that trend. It's only recently that it's dropped below that, and it's then dropping to the different MAs, and in this case it's dropped down to the 150. So, okay, we know that the trend is generally up, we know that over a longer period of time it's generally going to go up. But what about now? What's going to happen next? Well, clearly the market's going downwards. Now, people are saying that we're into a bear market now, and we're just about above it. We're not quite in there. A bear market is defined as 20% drop or 20% correction off the peak. So our kind of peak there is about the 480, and 20% off that is kind of around 380 or thereabouts. So we're very close to being in an official bear market. Now, what's interesting with the market at the moment is the way it is still following all of these key levels. Previously, obviously, it's been bouncing off the 20 moving average, but more importantly, we can see that we're bouncing off that level there. That's the Fibonacci extension level. We've got a bounce here a number of times off the 236 Fibonacci retention. Fibonacci retracement, sorry. We've got a bounce here that's close to the 382 Fibonacci retracement, and a lot of these levels there, again, that's the 236 Fibonacci extension. So we've got some key levels there that help us to work out what might happen next. So where might the market go next? Well, currently we've got a retracement, rally, retracement, rally, and retracement. So the next rally, where would that go? Well, that might go to the Fibonacci extension, which might be kind of close to that level there, and the next retracement would be down kind of here. So we'd be looking at whether it returns to a value about 430 for the SPY, and if it continues to drop, then it could quite easily go to the 380 or even the 350 mark, and that would certainly be a proper bear market then. However, most people, most retail investors think, oh my God, I'm going to lose all my life savings. I've got to get out of this market before it drops into the floor. Well, it's not going to drop into the floor. It'll just reduce. But again, because of those trends over time, it'll come back and go higher. So the best thing to do, again, I'm not giving financial advice, is that the best time to buy shares, the best time to invest in the market is during one of these big drawdowns. On the other hand, if the market is now a positive sentiment, then what we'd be looking for is these general trend lines to go in a positive direction. In terms of the fib levels, I would consider that perhaps we'll get a bounce again off the 380. It would return to the 400, kind of maybe the 420-ish, and then the next retracement will be higher than what this bottom is here, and then we'll start getting the trend going upwards. So the key level for me is around the 400 mark. If we can return to and then maintain the $400 mark, then I think the market sentiment will continue into a bull market. Now, as far as Bitcoin is concerned, that's for quite some time got a proper line of support with the $30,000 there. We can see it's bouncing off it multiple times. However, in the very recent past, it's now dropped below that. And even though it's got a kind of a support at, is that the 150 or the 200 moving average? It's still a big deal. It's dropped below $30,000. So as to whether we'll get another retracement back down further, or whether we'll start getting a recovery and going positive, then obviously only time will tell. Now, if we did go into a proper bear market and Bitcoin were to drop further, let's have a look at maybe what it would go down to. So perhaps we'd have kind of we'd possibly be dropping down to these kind of levels here, and in fact you can see there that the value that it's dropped to there is at the 618 Fibonacci retracement. You know, the next level down would probably be the 786 or the 1, so we could see it dropping down to 20,000 and possibly even not far off 10,000 again. Now when it comes to HNT, if we have a look at that, then we've got a very strong line of support and resistance there at about 786. As you can see there, it's bouncing off it quite a few times, including just recently. So if this were to continue further down in a bear market, let's have a look at what it might drop down to in terms of Fibonacci levels. So perhaps we can see there that maybe we'd be looking at something like this. So what does that work out as? Well, okay, so we've got these lines there. You can see they match up with the 0 and the 236, and in fact we've got this trend of the kind of 786 level that I just mentioned is around the 0.5 Fibonacci level. So the next levels down would be kind of this one and that one and that one, and the values in terms of dollars there, that's dropped down to 8 again, and then below that you're looking at 327, and obviously you can't go down as far as a negative amount. So the most likely next drop down, if it did drop down again, I would think is somewhere around the 350 mark again, which is not great, is it? But don't be surprised that if we go into a full bear market that HNT could well go down to the 350 mark. Okay, so finally nipping back to the longer term SPY, the S&P 500. Again, we can see there, can't we, this kind of long-term increase since COVID. So what this is going to say is, I mean, this is 2 years ago, a year ago, what's that kind of, this is 12 months ago. So ultimately, over the longer term, Bitcoin is going to go back up. I suspect actually it'll break the 60,000 all-time highs probably within the next 12 months, possibly even 6 months, considering it's the midterm elections. So I think you don't need to really be selling or cashing in on any HNT at the moment, and don't worry too much if you're down 50% or whatever, because ultimately the market is likely to return what it was, because history says that it does do. Now, of course, history doesn't mean that the future will follow it, but all things considered, I'm personally not scared of it. I'm not worried that I'm going to lose all my savings in the market. In fact, I've invested more, because the best time to invest would have been somewhere down here in COVID, because then you'd have had this massive improvement, this massive increase in your savings. In fact, I bought some of the S&P somewhere around there, which is about the 280 level, and look at it now, the fact that it's 400. So I think I'm up about 20 or 30% on my own personal investment. So ultimately, don't worry too much unless you really need to cash in on your HNT. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you found that interesting, and I'll catch you next time.